Essay will be in two parts. I will deal initially with some criticisms, which I think are ill-founded, about the upcoming Sandman series, and then work through the lore of what will probably be the case with Morpheus and Death and Desire. So what is the context? Well, essentially the cast for Sandman has been released. We're going to have more casting announcements soon, but the initial cast has been announced. And some people are already criticizing and attacking Neil Gaiman, who created the Sandman series decades ago, for selling out and or hypocrisy. Now, the reasoning is not very strong. I want to preface, I'm not a Sandman expert. I do like the books, but they weren't ever my favorite, but I can't help but appreciate Neil Gaiman's genius. He is an incredibly great writer. I like his books of magic much more than that, but there are parts of Sandman I respond to strongly. They're very good stories. The essential issue here is how Death and Desire are being cast. With Death, it's just being assumed by a lot of fans that she's a white woman, and that the fact that they cast a black woman is somehow disturbing the canon and or the lore. And with Desire, that actress also does not, quote, look like the comic book character. So we're going to hear some complaining, I think not very well articulated, by some skeptics.
That I saw the pronouns in there, I'm like much less likely to watch this. It looks like it's telling me where it's going, and Sandman, it already goes to these places already, and it sounds like they're going to dial up the woke and the intersectional much more than they need to, and it's something that probably, well, that has a lot of that in there already. So it's just going to be worse.
I think this is going to be insanely bad, and we're going to be able to roast the hell out of it. See, I have no faith in this project whatsoever, and they're telling you from the beginning that this is the road they're going down.
It's just the trend. The pronouns are just the trend this year. Last year was BLM. The year before that, it was like gay pride. It's just the corporations are like, well, oh, this is going to make us money. We have to lean in. It's like they're all lemmings.
It's going to be in the credits, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
Oh, dude.
It's
Just
just
wait for
annoying.
those credits to start changing.
I agree. There's more competition than ever now. You can easily miss this, and it's going to be dropped all at once. You'll have to watch all 10 episodes of this ethereal. I mean, God, it could be good if they adapt it right, but they won't.
It was progressive for its time. They honestly don't need to change anything.
No.
They could just adapt it. It would have been fine.
It's not enough for Death to be a white woman. It has to be a black woman now.
Jesus.
Well, it seems like these people don't really know the books in the first place, and insofar as they have read Sandman, they don't even like its basic organizing principle, because again, it's a very kind of odd cosmic fantasy where, yes, we do see Morpheus, Death, and these other people, but again, these are cosmic beings. They only look a certain way because of how our minds are adjusting to them. So the reason that Death looks, for instance, pale, she's not white, she just has pale skin, is because that's how people imagine Death to be. So if you're not reading the books closely, you won't notice the fact that she takes different forms. But if you do look closely, and some people have done really great research on this, which I'm going to drop in the description, she's been various different ethnicities, various different beings. So she's actually been black in the comics. She was also a Chinese girl also as well. So she's never been totally this white goth girl. This is just a mythology that a lot of fans want to hold on to. I understand that. I myself, growing up, thought she looked a lot like Winona Ryder. And if, unfortunately, Winona is a little too old for the role now, but I would have liked somebody like that to play Death. And Neil himself has backed Kirby, who's going to be playing Death. I myself am actually skeptical about the casting. I do think there is an aspect of political correctness. But in terms of the canon of Sandman as mythology, Neil is the creator of it. So if he says Death can be these different types of people, she can be these different types of beings. There's no issue with the canon and or the mythology. If you don't like the casting, that's fine, but there's nothing per se wrong with casting a black woman in the role of Death. So there's really no major controversy in terms of the canon. However, there are some issues to be kind of aired out, because I think people are also making a lot of confusion in terms of how Death was designed. Those weren't his designs. Again, he's not the artist. He works with the artist to design the characters, but he's notorious, and he's said this many occasions, he's not very good at art or drawing. So he often works with the artist to create these various characters. And in the case of Death, this is really Drinenberg. So this is an issue with the artist and how the artist framed Death and how they ran with that design. Now, that design was based on a white woman. However, Neil just agreed with it, but he had his own ideas of how Death was designed. but that was never really his original design. So if people were saying you're betraying the vision of death, he does not artistically create death. He just works with an artist to create death as it's going to be shown visually. And I understand people are tied to a certain vision of death, but again, he is the creator of this comic. If he says this is the canon, that's the canon. We can still criticize the decisions, but I don't see an issue in terms of the mythology. But I myself, so far, I'm kind of lukewarm here. I am somewhat curious of how they're going to do Sandman because, again, they have a lot of great stories. But again, that's the thing. In terms of the comic book format, they just did so many good things with it. I'm just very skeptical they're going to be able to replicate that kind of genius with a visual format like film and or television. But Neil seems very positive on this, and they haven't done this for a long time, so hopefully they finally got it right. But I am skeptical that there is a little bit of political correctness, but in terms of the main core mythology, there's nothing wrong here. Desire has always been non-binary. Death has been various different beings. Yes, her main characteristic is as this kind of goth girl, but that's not her only form. So again, just read the books closer, be more attentive as a reader. There's nothing wrong here canonically. You can still criticize the decisions, but nothing really core is being violated as far as I can see. But again, this is probably going to be the beginning of many controversies with this adaptation on Netflix.